Before we get started, I want to, on behalf of the board, share our condolences with the family of Clyde Mayfield. His passing has left a large hole in our community and on our board. I just want you to know that we'll be spending some time on our Monday night meeting for board members in the community to do some remembrance of Clyde. First item on our deal is open forum. Please follow the steps below to participate in open forum remotely. Dial 1-563-445-5001. Enter the conference ID code 526-4911. Identify yourself by stating your name and address. I will recognize you and allow you 2 minutes to speak. This is a special open forum. Is there anybody on the open forum line? Anybody there? Hearing none, we'll move on to our first action item. All right, Mary says we should wait a while. They might be dialing in as we speak.
Keep asking.
Anybody there for open forum? Open forum. Anyone for open forum?
Twice.
Sold over.
Okay.
Okay, there's no one there for open forum. We will move to the first action item. The chair would entertain a motion on 2.01, approval of the 28D agreements.
Mr. President,
Director Hayes,
I move the board approve the 28D agreement as presented.
may I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Director Gosa. Some discussion. Director Gosa, would you want to share the information from the meeting you were at with the city on concerning the SROs?
Yes, Mr. President. So myself, the superintendent, Dr. Kabilski, and the president, Bruce Potts, said on an MOU, I don't remember the whole name of the task force, with the city of Davenport. The other people on that task force include the mayor, Mike Mattson, Alderman at Large, J.J. Condon, Police Chief Sikorsky, and City Administrator Corey Spiegel. And we had our first meeting last week to discuss what we're going to try to do as the working group. And the first task is going to be to try to, each person's going to come up with a roles and responsibilities of the SRO, so that when someone asks what is the SRO doing, there's a clear defined what their assigned tasks are. We had a lot of good discussion, and then they had asked that I come to the city council meeting and speak in favor of the SRO program. And I also met with Rob Scott and the principals from the high school on Monday, and I met with Rob and the principals with the junior high on Tuesday to kind of get their input on this, so that when we go back, we meet again on Thursday from 3 to 4 at City Hall, to go back to them with some things from the district perspective, so we can work together in collaboration. I know the mayor's going to give a update at every city council meeting how that goes, and I believe the president will be doing that as well here, so everyone knows kind of what we've been discussing and working on.
Superintendent?
Thank you, Mr. President. This is a very important topic to our entire community, and I'm pleased at the level of cooperation that we have with the city, as well as the individuals that will be participating in a process that is designed essentially to make sure that our SRO program is meeting the objectives not only of the school district, but also of our community. And it's a very important conversation to have with our community. So I'm pleased that everyone is comfortable in having this. So I'm very excited to work with the team. The piece that I would add is I do think it's very important that we also include our students in the conversation. I made that point when we had our committee of the whole meeting a few weeks back. So as we start up the school year again, and as the mayor continues on with the task force, which I think is eminently appropriate, we have to make sure that we have fine time for student commentary and comment on the program, because their voices need to be heard also. So we'll make sure that that happens.
Director Gosa?
I forgot to add, there are 2 parents on that task force as well. I didn't think about it till you said about the students, but I do think that's a great idea to get their input on things too.
Discussion on the motion. Director Beck?
I think probably Director Gosa could answer this question. It looks like the main difference between what we previously had in place and what we're looking to put in place for the next couple years is this paragraph saying that we are working on a scope of the assignment, and that should we not mutually agree on what what SROs should be doing in our schools, we have the ability to back out. Is that correct?
Do you want me to- So the city council had passed it Wednesday night with the amendment that yes, if we can't come to a joint agreement on this, then they have 90 days to terminate the contract. I don't know if it was said if we have 90 days or it's them. I believe it's the city council.
City
because
council,
They wanna have the final.
Either party can terminate, it says, if we can't agree. Okay. I just wanted to make sure that that was clear, that we're not just redoing what we've done in the past. We're rehiring, but we're entering into it.
Right, so the SRO will have a defined, this is what you're gonna do.
Right.
Obviously with a little bit of a flex in there, flexibility because situations arise.
Right.
And then we got to work on collecting data as well to show that it's working or not working.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Further discussion?
If I may, I would just add a point, Mr. President, that we did feel that while this conversation is critical and vital across the entire community, it was very important that we start the school year with our SRO at West and not have that void while we were having this conversation.
Seeing no further discussion, we'll move to the vote. Director Hayes?
Yes.
Director Gosa?
Yes.
Director Klein Jerome?
Yes.
Director Postian?
Yes.
Director Beck?
Yes.
And my vote is yes, the motion carries. May I have a motion on 2.02, approval of contract with Gary Sinclair?
Mr. President,
Director Beck?
I move that the board approve the contract with Gary Sinclair as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Director Hayes. Discussion? Director Beck?
I just wanted to point out, or ask the superintendent to point out to the public who Gary Sinclair is and why we're hiring him.
Thank you. I was hoping for that prompt. So the board may recall that we engaged in a contract with Forecast 5 Analytics last year with the idea of providing the board and the administration, quite frankly, with a second set of eyes throughout our entire budgeting process and going through all of our financial data from staffing to purchasing and taking a critical look at everything we do with again, a fresh set of eyes. And Gary Sinclair was part of Forecast 5 Analytics. He has now moved on as an independent contractor. So Gary was very instrumental in helping guide us through the past year of SBRC conversations. He was instrumental in helping to craft our request to the SBRC that allowed for that $9 million opportunity to really get a fresh start as a school district. But where Gary's skills really come into play is his forecasting ability and his ability to understand school districts, understand school district budgets, and there isn't a better person in the state who's more qualified to do that. And we're very fortunate that Gary is willing to come and continue his work with us as an independent contractor. He will be a consultant, knowing that we're onboarding an interim CFO. I think this is a critical position for us to have that second set of eyes. And I do know both the SBRC as well as the State Board of Education are continuing to look critically at our finances, and they expect us to do the same. And I do know that both of those agencies also hold Gary Sinclair in high regard. So he comes with a great deal of credibility and as well as expertise, and he will serve us well as we continue with our budgeting, because as we all know, we're still in a declining enrollment environment, and we still have to make very tough budgeting decisions, and having Gary's expertise alongside our internal conversations, I think will allow us to make better decisions as we move forward, but most importantly, to put us on a sustainable path of financial success in the future, where we're not just operating on a year-to-year basis. And I think he brings that to the table. You've had an opportunity to hear from Gary. You worked with him last year, so he's not an unknown commodity for us. And he's, in my mind, he's proven our worth. And we believe that the contract that you have in front of us for the amount of time, the dollar amount, represents what would be a fair and appropriate fee for this type of consultation.
Thank you.
Director Hayes.
I know there's only 25 hours factored into the contract. Some months we may need more than 25 and some less. Is that flexible enough that we can work with that?
So we're approaching it as on average 25 hours a month, and there will be some months when the budgeting, he's going to focus most on budgeting. We have an excellent payroll department. He's not going to have to dive into payroll and make sure that's going well, and a number of other processes that we have in the district that our interim CFO is very well versed in. So he is going to focus his energy and attention on our budgeting process. We believe over the course of the year, 25 hours a month would be an appropriate amount of time. If it's less, great. If for whatever reason we found that we needed to spend a little bit more time, at least this way we've put a ceiling on this, and I would have to come back to the board with a second request.
Okay, thank you.
Director Poston.
Once he's on board, will we be able to get a snapshot of where we're at right now? I'm afraid our budget is just going to explode with the extra cost, with everything involved with COVID-19.
So we've already been sharing information with Gary under the assumption that this process would be successful this evening. So the first thing we're doing is we're finishing up fiscal year 20, just to make sure that we have a positive unspent balance with that. So that's the first order of business. The second order of business is to get into our current fiscal year budget, fiscal year 21, and make sure that the appropriations that we have that are extraordinary, that are associated with the COVID virus, are being allocated to the proper funds so that we're not draining our general budget. So as you know, we have the CARES Act dollars that we have. We also have the governor's emergency fund, which we just received approximately $750,000. So Gary will be intimately involved in making sure that our expenditures that were originally budgeted and approved by the board when we went through that process earlier in the year, that you will get month-to-month reports that'll let us know if we're on track or not. And Gary will be involved, as long with Lisa Cruz, our interim CFO, and myself, that you will know every single month if we're on track or not.
Director Klein-Jerome.
Does he live in Des Moines? I mean, will he actually physically be here? And I don't want 6 hours of time out of our 25 being travel. So do we just reimburse mileage, and his 25 is actually here time, or how's this going to work?
Well, fortunately, the work that he does doesn't require him to physically be within the district. He has access to all of our financial records, as does Forecast 5, and he can do all of this work remotely. If there were ever a time where the board would ask him to come to the district, we had a sidebar conversation that this contract is literally for work time, and that we didn't build into the contract any travel, so we didn't anticipate that. If that were to happen, that would be over and above. But he was fully willing to participate in board meetings remotely, answer any questions that you have, but all the information that he needs is available on a remote basis. There's no reason for him to be here physically.
Okay, great, thanks.
Director Gosa.
I have a few questions, and I'll just do them one at a time. Who will Gary report to?
Well, he's an independent contractor, so he's not an employee of the district, but Gary works directly with me and Lisa Cruz. The three of us will be working directly on the budget. The three of us will be putting together the reports for this board, putting together the reports for the Department of Education, as well as the SBRC, and any other interaction that you have financially. Gary will be part of that three-legged stool, so to speak.
Okay. I guess one thing I would like to see is him being involved with our finance committee, which I believe Director Poston is the chair of that. I'd like to see him kind of work with him as well to kind of keep the board in the loop. So per the way the state board was going, that it shows that the board has a vested interest in this, and we're kind of making sure that we're keeping track of it. If you're okay with that, but that was one of my questions because I kind of wanted that to be clarified. And then I think you covered it. He will present in board meetings, and I would like to see him work with the finance committee as well, so that way the board is involved with this as well. So we do have skin in the game. I had something else, but I lost my train of thought on that. But I'll leave that up to Director Poston if he's comfortable doing that, being the chair of that committee. But I would like to see the board have some teeth in this as well. Thank you.
Any other discussion? We'll move to the vote. Director Beck,
Yes.
Director Hayes,
Yes.
Director Poston,
Yes.
Director Kleinjerome,
Yes.
Director Gosa,
Yes.
and my vote is yes, the motion carries. May I have a motion on 2.03, approval of the contract for the School Administrator Manager Project.
Mr. President,
Director Beck,
I move that the board approve the contract for the SAM School Administrative Manager Project as presented.
is there a second?
Second.
Is that Director Hayes?
Yes.
Thank you. Discussion. Director Gosa.
I was just going to ask if Mr. Snetkoff could come up and explain what a SAM is, or were you going to do that? Okay.
You got some
Mr.
explaining to
Schneckloff
do.
will do a fine job, I'm sure.
I think a lot of us know what it is, but that way so
Sure.
everybody.
In all of our Title I buildings, we have a school administrative manager. This is a teaching position that is utilized in many areas. Probably the primary job, duty, responsibility of this person is to really assist the teachers with problem behaviors, writing tiered plans, assisting with duties, covering classes, things of that nature. The second portion of their duty is they track to the half hour all of our administrators, what they do with their time, and it uploads into a system, and they can evaluate where they're spending their time, where they need to make adjustments. To give you an example, last year we utilized our SAMs and our FAST data, which is our data system, and we found where our interventions were not working, and we purposefully scheduled the administrator, that was our goal, into that intervention time to find out what's not working or what is working, what tweaks that need to be adjusted. In terms of behavior issues that are happening in our building where hotspots might pop up, the SAM will say, we need to schedule you here at this time so you can see what's going on. And so the SAM position is really a teacher leader position inside of our district that helps manage the time of the administrator to ensure that they are the instructional leader and that they can really get to things inside of their building. But also they're a number one go-to for our teachers. So when nobody knows what to do with a student, the SAM comes in and helps create plans, make sure that we're covered, and they are only at our Title I buildings.
Can you clarify what you mean when you're talking about an administrator? I'm assuming it's the principal, but
Yes, it is the principal, absolutely. And the SAM project, the school administrative manager, I'm not really a fan of that name because it makes it seem like they're an administrator when truly they're a teacher. They don't evaluate teachers. They work side by side teachers. And so that part can be kind of deceiving a little bit, but they truly are a wonderful resource for our teachers and the administrator to help manage the building effectively. And there are tasks that I had a SAM when I was a principal, and it really did push me to be the instructional leader. And all of our administrators have instructional goals that they reach. And the contract that's before you basically gives them a dashboard, and they have a meeting every single day. And in that meeting, they talk about, okay, what did you get to? What didn't you get to? Whether in terms of teacher evaluations, whether it be, effectively supervising a leadership team, things like that. And then they pre-schedule the entire day for that principal. And then the principal goes about impact, finding those areas of highest impact to make the difference. And so that's kind of overall nutshell of a school administrative manager. The contract that's in front of you gives us the dashboard. It gives us coaching. So once a month, they have somebody come in from outside, and they really do give kind of critical feedback, offer book studies that they might think about pushing them in different directions. And then there's a really cool part of this where if you are a new SAM team, you have to have a baseline. And so literally there's a person that follows you around for 5 days. They don't make eye contact with you. They write down everything you do every 3 minutes in terms of an administrator. And then from there, that's their baseline. And the joke is they're kind of like the shadow. They have to wear dark clothing, but that's the baseline of the. Have you ever seen it before, President Potts? It's quite interesting because they won't look at anybody. And so anyway, that's the baseline of their data, and from there, all of their goals are set off that on the dashboard.
One final question. They kind of take the place of like an associate principal in the Title I schools, right? Because then you just have the principal and the SAM. Is that right?
I do not believe we have assistant principals in our elementary schools. That
Right.
we have them, and that's the thing that's really important to note. We have a district standard. So if, say, for example, at Wood, at a school the size of Wood, the district standard is that you have a principal and assistant principal. But if Wood is a Title I building, then everything that Title I brings to it is above and beyond what the district standard is. We can't supplant. So nowhere in our system does that supplant. And they would see that as supplanting. So if in an elementary school this size we had an assistant principal, but over here we had a SAM, that would be an illegal use of the funds.
And it's a special pool of money that we get.
Absolutely. Title I funds, absolutely.
Thank you.
Yep.
Sorry if I stole your thunder.
No, you did. May I just emphasize
please
a
do.
couple points? And TJ was spot on in terms of this is primarily a teacher support piece. But what this program does is it allows us to focus on instruction. Because as you know, there are interruptions throughout a school day that are sometimes, most of the time, unintended and have to be managed. And what we know from the research is for our principals to be effective instructional leaders, the best place for them to be is inside the classroom being an instructional coach with those teachers. And for principals to spend 90% of their day on the issues and things that come up during the school day that TJ alluded to, having the SAM there really allows for that instructional leadership. So in an indirect way, it's helping us with our student achievement as well as our behavioral pieces all around, and it allows us to focus on instruction. For me, that's the jewel of this particular idea, is to make sure that we can have the instructional growth and development and coaching of our staff. That is the primary responsibility of the principal of each building.
Director Klein, Jerome?
Just a comment, having taught in many buildings in the district, never a title building. It's unfortunate. It's the poor rich schools, as we used to refer to ourselves. We don't get that extra money. We don't get that extra services. I'm not knocking this program at all, but there's a whole lot of them out there that would benefit from this, but they aren't going to qualify. So again, it's the poor rich school because we didn't get the extra money, the extra funds, the extra supports. And I think that's not our problem. It's a federal issue, how title is sent out, but it is what it, not good.
Director Postuma?
What's the procedure when you apply for these funds, and what determines how much you actually get?
So our free and reduced lunch count, which is calculated at the state level, and that's delivered by our students and our own information system. And that at the state level, they pull that utilizing our information system, and then they give us the dollars based off of that. So it's our own students that qualify for free and reduced lunch. They may be homeless. There's several other things that make them qualify for that free and reduced status, and then the state pulls that, and our allocation comes to us that way.
So that determines which schools are Title I schools then?
So there's different ways to determine Title I schools, but what we've decided in our district is to take our dollars. So we don't get a lot of dollars. So what we've decided to do is take our dollars, rank our schools in free and reduced lunch, and we serve anybody that's higher than the district average. So I think our district average hovers anywhere from 64 to 67%. So what we've decided is that those buildings above the district average receive Title I funds. And to Director Klein-Jerome's point, there are buildings that are right below there that fall into that category of frustration like you just described.
Any additional discussion? Director Hayes.
Now, going back to your point that you're discussing, are the funds allocated evenly between all of the title schools, or do some title schools get more than others?
So we have a tiered system in ours because there are certain buildings that have way different populations and way higher free and reduced. So we have a tiered set, and we work through the state to really set those because we really want to maximize our most difficult areas with those above and beyond services.
Thank you.
Director Beck.
I know this is a little bit out of the scope, but since people were asking about title programs, so what if we as a district found that more and more of our students were qualifying for free and reduced meals services? Would we be able to shift that to say, instead of everyone above the average, it's everyone above in the top 2/3 of that ranking or something?
Absolutely. And we have done that. So, and the time that I've been in this role, we have added, I want to say 3 or 4 Title I schools because by the way boundaries have shifted, it has dropped, it had bumped them up and it brought them really close. And so we actually have added several Title I schools in the time.
Okay.
And I think right now, I believe we're serving 13 of our schools with Title I services.
Any additional conversation or questions? We'll move to the vote. Director Beck,
Yes.
Director Hayes,
Yes.
Director Postian,
Yes.
Director Klein-Jerome,
Yes.
Director Gosa.
Yes.
And my vote is yes, the motion carries. We'll now turn it over to the superintendent to give us an update on the Return to Learn plan.
Thank you, Mr. President, and I will give a far more extensive presentation on our regular board meeting on Monday. However, every time we have an audience, I would like to take an opportunity and get information out to our community as to, where things stand with Return to Learn, and wanted to spend a few minutes this evening with an abridged update. As everyone knows, we've pushed our start date to September 8th. That was done in conjunction with conversations that we've had with our county health officials. The way the COVID situation has been described to us is that the decline in cases that we have been seeing has, quote, stalled. And again, in quotes, that's not a good trend for us. We would like to have seen that decline continue. We've learned since then, we lost 3 full days to the windstorm that came through the area. Those were 3 critical days to impart a great deal of information to our building leadership teams, and we lost that particular opportunity. But we also know now that there are data glitches and issues that are taking place at the state with regard to COVID reporting, especially with regard to the positivity rate. So in hindsight, shifting to September 8th has proved to be quite fortuitous and has given us time to allow time to be an ally as opposed to being an enemy when it comes to mitigating the community spread of the virus. So we're very hopeful that we can start on September 8th. We believe that'll be the case, but the extra time will serve us very well. As the community knows, we've offered two options to our parents to enroll their students in their part-time face-to-face hybrid model where their students would come to school 5 out of 10 days over a 2-week period of time, or to choose the full online option. We asked parents this week via a survey to confirm their decision-making, especially when it came to an online program. And what we found is that the number of families that were interested in our online program exceeded our expectations. We were anticipating approximately 10 to 15% of our student body, perhaps 1,500 to 1,800 of our students would be selecting. That was based on projections that we were seeing from other districts around the state. As it turns out, as of this morning, over 3,400 of our students have opted for the online program, which is a significant increase over what we had anticipated. A couple of consequences as a result of that increase in the number. You may remember as a board that our original return to learn plan that we spent a great deal of time putting together would have our students come to school 2 days a week, on Monday and Tuesday, and then another cohort would come Wednesday and Thursday. And then Friday, we would have a whole cadre of teachers that would be available to help work with the online programming and managing all of that. When the governor announced that we had to go to a 50% face-to-face model at a minimum, it required all of our teachers to see students every single day. They were not going to have that Friday opportunity to put together lesson plans and work with our online students. As a result, we knew we had to lean very heavily on our Edgenuity program, which has been used extensively in our high school for credit recovery. And we were planning on using that for our online students moving forward and a cost associated with that. Well, now we've nearly doubled the amount of students that'll be going online, so we're doubling the cost of our Edgenuity cost going into this. We're looking at approximately $1.8 million in online education costs with Ingenuity based on approximately a $500 per student cost to do that, and that's multiplied by the 3,400. That's double than what we imagined, so we have to be very careful, to Mr. Paustian's point, with our CARES Act dollars of how we're going to, remember, we have almost $4 million in CARES Act that we have to manage, and the Ingenuity program is going to occupy a lot of that. So wanted to alert the board that was one of the more direct consequences of the fact that we have a significant portion of our student population that'll be going online with that. And I'll get into more detail as to what Ingenuity and how that's going to be used on Monday night for the Board of Education. I'll have our Director of Curriculum Instruction describe what that will look like by grade level for you, so you'll have that understanding. This Friday, we will be sending out our standard of care to all of those families that have confirmed their decision to go with an online model. It'll give them more detail as to what the requirements of that program are. The pieces that we're still need a few days to work out, for example, are making sure that the distribution of computer devices is available for all those students. Some students did not. Some students turned them in over the summer because the families just didn't want the responsibility of having to care for those devices. So we have to make sure that those computers get back in the hands of the students that chose the online program. And we're also going to spend the next few days deciding which teachers are going to be our online teachers. And that is a process that has encompassed a great deal of our time from an HR department perspective. We've had a number of teacher interviews who have expressed, first of all, there's a great deal of anxiety out there, and it's on everyone's mind. It's on parents' mind, it's on our mind, and it's certainly on the minds of our teachers. So we've had the better part of over 70 interviews with individual teachers over the course of the last 3 days that are concerned about their presence in the building and what that means, and if there are accommodations that we could make based on their specific situation. Out of those teachers, there will certainly be a core group that we may not be able to manage from an accommodation perspective, and they would be the first candidates to be the online teachers for our online school. Moving on from there, we would then have to identify a larger cohort of teachers of up to 60 to 70 teachers that would have to manage this number of students in an online format. And we're working very closely with the union. I met with them this morning. We meet with them every single day, working on the process to make sure that we select the online teachers. And we're settling in on the idea of offering the online option for the most senior teachers by grade level. And again, we'll get more specific about that on Monday, with the idea of using our teachers that are more seasoned in the curriculum and have a more thorough understanding of teaching, and using our best and brightest teachers to make sure to manage the online piece. That's the recommendation that's working its way through the district right now, knowing that there will be some exceptions. We have a number of less seasoned staff members that are very well-versed in technology and would be prime candidates to be an online teacher, and we have to make sure that we balance that properly with experience versus being a digital native, so to speak, and making sure that we can meet the needs not only for our online students, but our students who are coming to school 5 of those 10 days a week. So we're in the process of identifying and working with our principals as well as the teachers union as to the best way to get the best teacher in front of every single class that we have in the district. So my appreciation to the DEA for their willingness to be flexible, knowing that we may have to pull teachers, for example, from a high school science department and put them in a middle school because we might be short science teachers in a middle school. And they understand that we have approximately 1,000 kids at the high school, fewer than we would normally have. So we would have an excess of teachers that we may need to move them around where the need is. And again, I'm very grateful for the cooperation of the DEA in having these conversations with us. So we're identifying those cadres right now. I would like to end with the conversation that we had today with the County Health Department, because I think it's very important and it's been a concern of mine over the last couple weeks. We have planned the start of our school year to the nth degree, trying to come up with every scenario, every possibility, every situation that we may be confronted with and plan for it. Whether it's, you've heard about our signage and our plans to have up stairwells and down stairwells and social distancing and color-coded desks for students to sit and manage, and having breaks for students and proper socially distancing and all that. And I will tell you, I had an experience recently where I had the opportunity to take my daughter off to college. She's a senior this year. I won't name the university, but I could tell a great deal of planning went into just the move-in procedure in terms of getting into the dorm, getting your textbooks, getting everything organized. It was all very well planned. There was clear signage. Masks are required. This is an up stairwell. This is a down stairwell. And much to my dismay, there was a great deal of noncompliance as I was watching this unfold through the eyes of a superintendent waiting for us to start our school year. So that caused me great concern, and that ended up being our discussion, one of our main discussions today with the County Health Department. And one of the questions was put forward: what happens if a student or a parent is notified by the health department that through contact tracing, they've been exposed to the virus and they are required to quarantine for 14 days. We heard today from one district in particular that has started school already that there was a parent that said, I'm not going to comply to that. I'm sending my child to school. So whose job is it to manage that? And fortunately, in our conversations with the County Health Department today, they will let us know who should or should not be in school. They will contact the parent and say, your child needs to stay home. And fortunately, from our perspective, the county health officials have said to us today as superintendents that if there's a non-compliant parent, they will go forward and put forward what's called a quarantine order, which would take the onus off of us as a school district of trying to enforce that non-compliance. So that was, as you can imagine, was a great relief. My commentary to Dr. Katz in particular was, you just need to do that one time, and I think everyone will get the message that that's just not going to be acceptable behavior in our community. But our big concern right now is we've planned, and, as you know, you've been a part of that planning process with Return to Learn. You know all the details that are associated with a successful start to the school year in terms of safety as well as educational efficacy. At the same time, a plan is only as good as its implementation and as good as the compliance is. So I'm putting out a plea to parents, to students, to please honor the rules that we have in place as a school district. They're designed to ensure the safety of not only you as an individual, but your friends, your classmates, your teachers, your parents, your grandparents. And all the work that we're doing is designed to keep everyone safe and to keep this community safe. And we have a responsibility to do that. And I'm calling on everyone in this community as we approach September 8th to be mindful not only of your health and safety, that we've taken great care in putting together a plan to keep that safe, but also knowing that you have control over the decisions you make as students and as parents. I have no doubt that our staff will be very compliant with the pieces that we have out there. They're extraordinarily understanding of the nobility of being an educator and having to model the behaviors they expect in others. But the key to our success on September 8th is if we can follow the rules that we've put in place, we have a much better chance of being successful starting the school and having a safe, healthy, productive school year. So I apologize for the lecture, but and if it came across as a lecture, but it's critical to our success moving forward, and I will emphasize this point again when we speak on Monday. So on Monday, you can expect to hear more detail, whether it comes to ingenuity, when it comes to how the teacher movement is taking place, and any other last-minute items that we have for parents. But I thought tonight's conversation, I just wanted to make sure to make this particular point about compliance with the rules and regulations. I'll be happy to take any immediate questions, knowing that we'll probably have a heck of a lot more on Monday, but sure. Mr. President?
You call on whoever.
Sure. Klein Jerome?
If a family moves into our district, say October 1st, are they going to get the choice of online or hybrid or?
Yes.
Okay.
And students will, at the end of a quarter, will have an opportunity to switch either way. However, if there's a family situation or a student situation that would require them to go online, they could move to that online format at any time. Let's say a family member got sick and they were part of the hybrid model, we would allow them to transition to online. But we're asking our online families to continue online for at least a quarter before they decide to make a switch. Otherwise, we would have staffing issues of having to move teachers all the time. And as you know, that would be unmanageable.
I guess I thought I heard they had to commit to this semester, so I am glad to see it's the quarter.
We shortened that up to the quarter. Director Beck?
I'm sure you'll answer this on Monday, but if you weren't planning to, this is my question. I've heard a couple of concerns that kids who are online are not going to be able to interact with district teachers. It wasn't super clear, I think, to them. And so hearing you now talking about online teachers, I think part of it might be they don't understand edgenuity, which I'll be honest, I don't know exactly what that means. So I think that's something that people would really like to hear about is, and they probably understand. It may not be the teacher that they are, from their home school,
Right.
but that would be something that I think.
We will give an ingenuity tutorial to the board on Monday night, and part of that tutorial will discuss the layers of support that in some cases will be an ingenuity teacher, in most cases it'll be a district teacher, in some cases it'll be both, and we'll describe those scenarios for you on Monday night.
He had his hand up first.
Director Poston?
I'm glad to see that you mentioned that the health department would issue the
Quarantine order?
quarantine order. But for me personally, I don't have a lot of faith in the Scott County Health Department, especially the head of the Scott County Health Department. I'm really getting tired of our kids being used as political footballs. And what he did, the interview that he had with the Times, I mean, he has an agenda, and the agenda is not our children. It's a political agenda. And I know you've spent a lot of time with him, but I fear that it's wasted time and the time should be spent on a return to learn plan. There's a email that came from the guy's name's Payon with the teachers union, okay, stating that there was problems in the Davenport district as far as being ready. I've been sitting on these DSAT meetings. These people all out here, I have 100% faith in these people. We're ready. So to me, it's a slap in the face to these people out here to say they're not ready. I was shocked Tuesday night to find out on the news that we're pushing school back to September 8th. And I'm thinking, where did this come from? I understand there were issues with the power outages and everything like that. And I know Mary tried her darndest to get a hold of me, and I appreciate that, Mary. Sometimes some of my information still comes by carrier pigeon, but I'm way out there in the sticks. But again, these people on DSAT, it's amazing how much time and how much hard work they've put into this. So I'm just upset that we turn around and say, hey, we're not ready yet. These people are ready. These people out here, they're ready. And so like I said, I have a lot of faith in them. The other concern I have is, is it the teachers union that wants to keep pushing this back? Because the feedback I get from teachers, they're ready to go. They're ready right now. They're ready to go. They just want all the information they can get so they're prepared when they go. So again, you said you were shut down for 3 days. Okay. Every time I walk into this building for meetings, there's this huge generator out here. Was that not working, or what was going on?
No, it was not working.
And why? I mean, what do you know why it wasn't working? Or
It was not properly maintained over the years, and we didn't have a maintenance contract for it. It has since been fixed, and that issue will never happen again. So it only lasted for a day when it should have lasted us for 3 days.
okay, well, that was going to be my next question, whether it was a maintenance contract. But why would it only last for 3 days? I mean, it should go on forever as long as it's provided with fuel.
I will get an answer to that question for you on Monday night.
Okay. I mean, we have 6 or 7 generators at our different sites. I mean, at 2 sites, it ran for 10 days, as long as you keep fuel to those generators. So I was flabbergasted when we had to shut down here at the administration building, and we've got this huge generator sitting out here.
Well, that was a separate issue, and Director Poston, the decision to delay was mine, and I owned that. I called the board president and told him it wasn't swayed by the DEA or anyone in particular. It was based on what I felt were extenuating circumstances with information that, yes, I received from health officials. I have to rely on local people for information, and I'm not going to comment on the political aspects of it, but it's the information I had at the time, and I'll own that decision of starting on September 8th. And I appreciate the fact that everyone's put in a great deal of work on DSAT, but I think the other part that was very important for me is all of that information now has to be disseminated throughout the entire system. So while we've been working on this all summer long and have become very well versed in all of the details of this plan, we were only 100 people. There are 2,700 other employees that have to understand how we're going to operate as a school system, and that learning and that training was put in jeopardy potentially by this storm and potentially by having absences with the virus. So it was my decision. I do believe that our new calendar will allow us to pick up those days that we've extended. We're not going to lose any instructional hours as a result of it, but I felt it was important as a district to have a successful start as opposed to having issues right at the very beginning. I thought first impressions are very important for us, and I wanted to have a successful start to the school year, and I felt the opportunity for that was better served by starting on September 8th. So please don't disparage any other groups for that decision. That was my decision alone.
Well, and I don't have a problem with it being pushed back because of the storm, because, I mean, you look around at some of the buildings, school buildings and that, there's still, trees and stuff down, and so, and I can appreciate that, but being shut down for 3 days with a generator sitting out here, to me, that's unacceptable.
I agree.
The other question I had, well, you just mentioned it now. As far as, do you know when you're going to make up those days?
So on the agenda Monday night will be the new calendar for the
Okay.
2020-2021 school year that'll have the new instructional dates so that all of our parents and our entire community knows how we're going to make up the late start.
Okay, and then do parents know that if you're signed up for 100% online, that those kids will not participate in extracurricular activities?
They should know that, but we will keep emphasizing that point.
I would keep emphasizing it because I've gotten feedback where they think their child is going to participate in band even though they're signed up for 100% online. So to me, that's going to be an issue.
Right. So there are certain activities that they can still participate in. However, it's a little incongruous to keep a student out of school during the day, but allow them to participate in athletics, for example, which they are allowed to do, but some activities they're not. So we'll be very clear on which activities are available for parents and students and which are. We've tried to do that, and we'll continue to broadcast that messaging.
And then through all of this, you mentioned at our last meeting about getting everything ready as far as sixth grade and the junior highs and moving the career academy and that. Is that done? Has that all been moved?
That's on track.
Okay. Thank you.
Please.
So I have a couple questions as well. One, obviously, we're probably not going to have unpack your backpack and stuff like that. So are we working on like some virtual tours of the school for like the new? I'm thinking of like incoming freshmen. Obviously, sixth graders, it won't really because they're staying in the same building. But then you'll have kindergartners and preschoolers and stuff like that. And then kind of along those lines, and you kind of talked about it. Are we going to have like a video that this, if you go down this one, you're going up this one, just kind of how to navigate the school? Because I know Fillmore did that when they changed the parking procedure, and that worked out great because then you're able to see how you're going to do this and navigate it.
So in both of my associate superintendents can speak to this, but the idea is, each principal is in charge of their building, and orientation is going to look different. But as you know, orientation looks different in all of our buildings. But I don't know, Rob, if you want to speak to those specific activities, and Bill, if you want to speak to how you're working with the principals to make sure that students get the knowledge and understand what are the principals' plans for teaching their students how to manage all of these protocols.
So a little bit on the new to the building, as they're reaching out to some families, I'll say kindergarten, there's just some kindergarten testing that will take place. And so they did talk about when they come in to do the kindergarten testing in the next 2 weeks, that be an opportunity for them to maybe show them some of the school, do some connection with that. They're pushing out as much as they can virtually, to families. Also to new students at the middle school, the only new students we have are new to the area. So for those, they were able to set some individual meetings up to be able to take them through the campus to show them, and that actually starts in the next 2 weeks if they were desired. Same way with the high school, we get a lot of private school kids that come to our high schools, and so the same thing, some individual meetings. Now some of those meetings took back already in the spring when we did some enrollment, we did course selections, and so many of those kids were already on campus, did their tours in February before we did the shutdown. And so, but we've been working closely with the schools just to try to do the best we can. I will say that because we have such smaller class sizes, that will help some of the transition. You'll have 12 kids, 14 kids in the classroom. You're going to be able to have a little bit more time of helping them transition into the school also. So that's a little bit of an update on the parent and the student that I know at this point.
And Bill, any commentary on those protocols that are going to be new to students that obviously they're not used to?
I think I think the what you'll see happen with the elementary schools, and that's certainly where my past experiences have been, is they'll use PBIS and that idea of teaching procedures, because all of these processes that we're talking about have a procedure that go along with them. I signed a purchase order last while back for well over $70,000 for signage that's going to come in to be distributed throughout the district. Everything from wash your hands, please, to wear a mask when you're in this room, to don't park here, to park there, to arrows going up and arrows going down. Dan Burlingame, who's our pandemic specialist, has been working with the building secretaries and building custodians, and he's actually going to use maintenance staff to go out and physically put these things in the right spot so that they follow the procedures that we put in place in our return to learn plan. So that's in terms of, I would think that when you think that a typical second grade class, when you think 15% of those kids are going to stay home, and then the ones that come are just going to come basically every other day or 2 days 1 week, you're down to maybe groups of 12 or 14 in some cases, and teachers will have a wonderful opportunity to teach 12 kids what the procedures are like as we line up and how we go to the restroom and how we wash our hands. And I predict this is going to be the new way we teach school, by the way, that you're going to get more done with 12 kids in 2 days than you would with a full classroom for a full week. And then this off-campus learning that's going to go on, we'll get really good at it, and they'll pre-teach and they'll post-teach anyway. That's just a sidebar as you guys move into your next generation of educators. But right now, I think it'll be PBIS is what we're banking on. We're using the system that we have in place to build the procedures they're built. Now we just got to teach the kids as they come in how to handle it, and the teachers.
Okay. I guess I was kind of looking at a virtual tour of the building, like I said, like with your incoming freshmen, because I mean, you're going to a whole new building.
Yeah, I understand that.
You don't,
Well, the one advantage we have, if you think about it, at the elementary school, and again, I still see myself as being with the elementary school here for while I'm talking, is the fifth graders will be staying with us for sixth grade. So that's a whole group of kids that don't have to do a transition to the middle school. And you've recognized that. Those seventh and eighth graders are going to know what they're doing. Mm-hmm. It's going to be that incoming group of freshmen. But they too should be coming in smaller batches. And a larger number of those kids are doing online instruction. So it'll be a smaller group of kids.
okay.
And those freshmen still have advisory periods where they will have opportunities to work with that advisory teacher to help them with all those processes and procedures that are new to them as a freshman.
Yep.
Is that it? Was that it?
I had another one. I should start writing this stuff down because I forget. So for the online learning, is that going to be like, are they going to be in that classroom as it's going on, or is it going to be a completely different teacher at a different time? Or is there going to be like a schedule? You got this class at this time, boom, boom, boom.
The answer to your first question is that depends on the grade level, and we'll talk about that Monday night as to how that teacher arrangement is. But yes, there will be a schedule for students to follow and have an understanding so that we can do both synchronous and asynchronous learning.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'll have somebody who can wait till Monday.
It'll wait till Monday.
I entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
This meeting's adjourned.